Tonight on Going for Two, we'd like to take a moment for reflection. There was a terrorist attack this week in Brussels, and we want to give a hearty fuck you to the assholes who decided killing and injuring a bunch of people would make any kind of point other than up yours. So tonight, I am drinking Belgian beer. I'm drinking Corsendonk Double tonight because it's one of the beers that brought me into beer maturity. There's the nice bottle there. And it's damn tasty.
I missed the bottle. May I see the bottle again? I'm sorry, I was reaching over to get lotion.
I hope this is the screen capture.
Oh, that is a nice bottle. Lovely bottle.
Yes. So here's a toast to you, Belgium. Santé.
We stand with Belgium.
So, and then let's get back to the real show. Good evening and welcome to Going for Two. This is the only YouTube podcast in human recorded history to feature a male and female host drinking our way through the important topics of the day, as long as they touch the football world, and not in that way. And let's get on to the very big show. Sharona, what on earth is that you're drinking?
I am drinking a hard cider. Well, it is a hot cider. It is a hot cha-cha-cha by Out on a Limb. I guess it's a woodchuck hard cider. Yes, a woodchuck hard cider. It is, I'm not a big cider drinker. I'm more of a, you guys know I like porters and stouts, and I do have a standby beer in case this one was not drinkable. A lovely local amber ale.
Nashville beer. Good one.
Gerst beer. I had my first Gerst at the Gerst House in lovely Nashville, Tennessee, and this is now produced by Yazoo Brewing Company, and it's an awesome beer. They do good stuff there.
Lovely. So, let's say welcome to our guest, Keith Myers, and before the introduction, what are you drinking? What do you got there? That looks kind of cool.
This is called an Irish Death.
Oh, I've heard of that. I have a friend.
Dark food ale from Iron Horse Brewing, which is really, really good. It's one of my favorites. So,
awesome.
If you like porters and stouts, which you just said you did, you'd love this. It's tasty.
I'll have to try that.
No,
are you on Untapped, Keith?
I'm not, and I probably should be, since trying lots of different beers is kind of my thing.
Zach's not sociable, so he's not on it, but he drinks a lot of beer too.
Just post all my beer. Yeah, I know. I was asking Mike Margosian we had on a couple weeks ago about all the stouts because he's Mr. Bomber, and he sent me his Untapped list, and I'm like, I've downloaded that app 3 times on my phone. I just never remember to post.
You should use it, Zach.
Put my beers on Twitter, and that's enough.
You should use it. You should definitely use it. It's awesome.
So Keith is on tonight so he could drink, first part, and offer special insight on the offensive line-less Seattle Seahawks. He is managing editor of 12th Man Rising on the Fansided Network, and last time we had you on, the Seahawks were 4 days away from the worst half of football they've had in a long time. How have you recovered from that?
How did I recover? I recovered by drinking a lot of these. But other than that, yeah, it's one of the nice things about having to write about the team every single day is that there's no time for being miserable. You just got to jump back in and get to work. And as fun as that doesn't sound, it ends up being what I do.
Well, besides, it's not like you're going to get a lot of sympathy from very many people because, hello.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, how successful has Seattle been, for a long time?
Well, the last 4 years have been great. 2012, they started out 4-4, but then went on that amazing run, and were 34 seconds away from, the NFC title game. They won it in 2013. They lost it in 2014, and then they looked like they were primed to make another run until they decided to sleepwalk through a half of football against Carolina, and that didn't end well.
Yeah. Yeah, but even in the Matt Hasselbeck days, there was success. And,
oh yeah, definitely.
And a lot of teams, a lot of fans of some NFL teams, hello Titan fans, would kill for that. You know.
Yeah, there was the stretch there from 2003 to 2007 where I think they made the playoffs every year and they won like 5 straight division titles in there. So there was some definite success. And then there was a 2008 team that won 4 games and then 5 games, and then Pete
Yeah.
Carroll showed up and somehow he won a division with 7.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Yeah. Hey, but you made the play. That doesn't. You made the playoffs. I
And
should.
be smart.
I should
and they won
mention.
the playoff.
Yeah, I should mention that the Titans' best success here lately has been with Matt Hasselbeck as their quarterback.
Yeah, which is interesting because by the time he left Seattle, he was kind of a shadow of what he'd been in that 2005, 2006, 2007 range when he was really, really good. But all those back injuries just, like, I don't know, they just messed him up. His shoulder injury made his delivery slower, and that's why he ended up in Tennessee, and yet he was still the best quarterback you guys have had until last year. So,
Yeah, well, since McNair, yeah.
Yeah, and despite the injuries, the last guy to start 16 games for the Titans, he didn't finish. He finished like 12, but hey, he started 16. You gotta give him some credit for that, you know?
Yeah.
So let me give Sharona an opportunity here.
Uh-oh.
Before we get into a
Are we doing
Seahawks...
over it or not already?
No. Well, before we get started with the Seahawks-centric episode, and sorry about the slow start for the Sounders. That's right, a little MLS mention. We had a segment around last week about Sharona having to womansplain Katie Nolan, and Miss Sharona was quite eloquent in her comments. So thanks for that. So I'm giving you the opportunity,
I have my moments.
if you want, to have me try to mansplain one Dino, what's his name, of Podunk St. Louis Radio, who made the ripples on the Twitter earlier this week.
Well, I
With his
mean,
comments.
you and Keith can feel free to try to explain to me, first of all, who he is, because I'd never heard of him, and B, why is Jock Talk, Bro Talk Radio, why is that still a thing?
okay, I'll handle that question.
Ooh.
One, he is a just run-of-the-mill sexist schmuck from St. Louis. So if you have never heard of him, you're not missing anything.
Okay.
Second of all, the reason why it's still a thing is the same reason why they have those idiot man's rights activists out there that think that men are getting stepped on by feminism, and because there are people out there who are stupid, and they will gravitate towards other people with similar minds, and there's usually one in every city. And it happens to be on sports radio a lot, and that's all he is. He's just a guy who's filling that niche and being an idiot. So.
Well, is this like the fact that the reason why cable rates are so high is because like people watch sports live? So even though I doubt that the ratings are super high for sports radio, I do remember like when I actually listened to Atlanta sports radio, it was on AM radio, and now it's on like FM radio. It actually has a larger footprint, but I'm guessing the people who listen are real diehards, but there aren't as many of them, and maybe they go for that. I was just trying to imagine like being a drive time sports guy talking about Atlanta sports 4 hours a day, having to talk about the Georgia Bulldogs 360 days a year, or the Falcons, or the Braves, and just wanting to kill myself. So I could see how there's a problem. I just barely remember Dino years ago that most of his tweets were like in all caps. And the thing, what he ended up doing was, I mentioned mansplaining. He had to bigot-splain, and you get this a lot when someone says something really general. Like he basically said women can't talk about sports, and then later he's like, I didn't mean sports media, I just meant sports talk radio. And then I was thinking, well, what percentage of women actually do that? Because how many women get the opportunity to do that, to be honest?
Yeah.
And if we grabbed, let's say, 6 sports talk radio hosts and said 3 female, 3 male, like adjust the audio so they sound kind of similar so you can't tell what gender they are, I bet you couldn't tell, quality level or something. But yeah, it's one of those the people that yell loudest get the most attention, and most everybody was just making fun of him for, I don't know, a few hours on Monday, and then it was kind of gone.
Yeah, but
Weird cycle.
wasn't that what he? I mean, he just wanted attention, right? So
It worked, I guess.
Anyway.
So perhaps we should move on from that. Excellent mansplaining, everybody. Well, we
All
had
right,
the two guys.
good job.
Yeah. We'll make this a regular segment. So we want to talk about the new NFL rules. We have some adjustments this year. Last year, I had a feeling that either the extra point or the catch was going to turn a game, and the extra point rule turned the Patriots and Broncos game and saved us from the hell of another Patriots Super Bowl. So thank you, Roger Goodell. But this year we have 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties equals an ejection. At least they don't have that dumbass targeting penalty they have in college. It is so just horrible. Touchbacks are now at the 25-yard line, and I guess that means teams are going to try to kick the ball in play instead, maybe?
Yeah, so there's a lot of confusion about the ejection penalty, and people are saying, "Oh, it's 2 personal fouls." So, what happens in a playoff game if there's a horse collar tackle on Von Miller in the 4th quarter and he ends up getting ejected because of it? That isn't actually what they're officiating here. It's just unsportsmanlike conduct. So it's hitting someone and spitting or taunting or that kind of stuff. Basically, the entire thing is set to Odell Beckham and Josh Norman. Is basically they don't want that situation to come about again. And if it does,
or Vontae's Perfect, who
yeah. So it's really aimed at a very narrow group of incidents. It's not going to be something which is going to. We may never see it this year. Like, it may never actually come about.
I was on the conference call when the NFL, before it was passed, when they were announcing the rules and talking about the conference. The meeting that they were going to be having to discuss these rules. And it had Rich McKay and Troy Vincent and some of the other big names for the competition committee and the rules making body. And they said that only 2 players would have been automatically ejected last season under the rule that was being proposed. So it's not like it's going to hit a significant, and there were a lot of bad things that happened last year, in terms of penalties and whatnot. So it's not like it's going to hit a significantly large percentage of players.
Wasn't there a play last year when the Titans got like 3 unsportsmanlike penalties on one play?
Yes.
Brian Rockco got like 2 in one play, and
wasn't that against against the Panthers, wasn't it?
I thought it was the Saints. Like they hit like Drew Brees. It was one of those ticky-tack. Oh, you touched the quarterback penalties, and then somehow while he was complaining to the refs, I thought he had already been kicked out, but he wasn't, and that was probably good because he actually made some plays. You actually forget the Titans had defensive players last year, but.
There were 2 unsportsmanlike penalties called against the Panthers. Avery Williamson, and was it Wesley Woodyard who was the other? I can't remember who the other one was. Both of them drew unsportsmanlike penalties for going after Cam Newton for dancing.
Oh, well, don't be dancing in the end zone.
Don't be dancing because you scored so handily, honest.
Be a professional. Be Russell Wilson.
Hey, maybe stop him next time.
Yeah, maybe stop.
Yeah, that's my thing. If you don't want Cam Newton dancing, don't let him score. So
the good thing is they play him like every 4 years, so that really helps. They expanded the horse collar tackle, which always seems kind of approximate. Like, isn't it fun to watch NFL? And I probably say this every third week when you watch like NFL films from the 70s, and like every tackle you see, that's a penalty now.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, they dropped him on his head. Oh, that's totally cool in the 7. Now it's a penalty. You're out. So yeah, it's a different game.
But you're also like, oh, that guy, he can't remember his children's name, and ooh, that guy can't walk, and so I mean, it's kind of a Trade
I
off.
understand. I'm watching Ballers on HBO, so I know how it feels to be an
Okay.
NFL player. That show is just all right. Brock doesn't have a lot of
Up
brain
next, Zach mansplains to Sharona why anybody would want to watch Ballers.
because I have an HBO account and I was bored.
Kidding. Whatever. Listen, you watch Ballers. I play Dragon Age Inquisition. Only Keith gets me in this group.
Yeah.
Totally, I totally get you on that. That's so. I'm right there with you in the RPGs.
I like to drink beer and play video games.
It's awesome.
There's a bar in Nashville, 2 Bits, that we went to, and one
We had
Monday, I think there was a Monday night game. I went there like Monday at 2 o'clock, and I'm drinking beer, and they plugged in the Nintendo 64 for me so I could play Mario Kart. It was pretty awesome. That's my style. When they have the old school video games that have like all the games from the 80s, that's when I'm in. That's when I'm like, oh yeah, you want to play this Pac-Man against me? Oh, what? I don't think so.
But see, on the Xbox One, you can, you can stream the games, and during commercials, and you can be back and forth between games and streaming, and you can do all kinds of cool stuff.
So I hear. But I had a friend who got like the new Mortal Kombat or something, and he's like, "Come on over and play PS4." I'm like, "It's too many buttons. I'm in too many buttons camp." Anytime I play with my nephews, I just hit random buttons, and every like 50th time I do something cool, and then usually I die. Too many buttons. You gotta use your elbows and blink the right way, and it's confusing. But
I've actually got a Kinect. I haven't used it yet to play. I've used it to stream to Twitch, which I need to start doing again. I just haven't. There's only so many hours in the day, and it's been incredibly weird lately. But with the Kinect, well, you know this because I think the Nintendo does it too. But you can, use the Kinect thing and actually dance around and do all your stuff.
I think you should play an online streaming thing while you do a show at the same time.
I could do it. I could totally do it.
You gotta stay multitasking these days.
It might be R-rated, but I could do it.
Now let's
Because,
let's talk about the best NFL news all week.
Okay.
LA Rams on Hard Knocks. Sounds like a bad comic book movie reboot with the same shitty director. Jeff Fisher, stash time, everybody. Let's get excited.
Yep, on every week from 7 to 9 p.m., right?
Does Jeff Fisher shave his mustache or not?
No, of course not. Of course, nobody got the 7 and 9 joke there.
Oh, right. That's right.
That's the Jeff Fisher thing.
Or Mr. 8 and 8.
Early bird special.
They're perennially underachieving. It's weird because a disclaimer: Sharona's getting ready to be kind of loosey-goosey here. I would have never thought Jeff Fisher would have allowed his team to be on Hard Knocks, and there was probably some league pressure there with the Rams just moving from St. Louis to Los Angeles and all of that. But I'm sure Fisher's it's like, hey, prime time for me to, get on prime time and get me some new pussy.
Well, that's right. He's a free agent now,
huh? Yeah.
And all that. He was having fun.
I was just going to say, I think that there was that report that came out today that said that the Rams were going to be on in 2014 on Hard Knocks.
Oh, yeah,
but the
and
league said that if they drafted Michael Sam, then they wouldn't have to be, and another team would pick it up. So they drafted Michael Sam in the 7th round. So I'm guessing that this is basically like, okay, we let you not do it then, but now you have to do it now, type of thing.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm sure that they're moving to LA. They're getting all the free publicity, trying to get fans in the new city, blah blah blah. I'm sure that has a lot to do with it too.
I forget who it was, but I saw somebody doing a poll out there in Twitter land earlier today, talking about asking who St. Louis fans would follow. Now, would they continue to follow the Rams, or what would they do? And it's an interesting question.
Well, I mean, I have a friend who's from St. Louis, and of course, he was a Cardinals fan growing up. The football Cardinals, the Neil Lomax, everybody, they were actually decent in the 70s for like a year. And then they switched to the Rams and got to watch them beat the Titans. But he's pretty much become a Falcons fan because he lives in Atlanta, and the Rams have been so. I mean, they had that run where they were studly, like it was like a 4-year run of awesome, and then.
Well, that was Kurt Warner.
That was Kurt Warner. It was like,
He did the same thing in Arizona too. Oh. He got Ken Whisenhunt a new head coaching job.
Yeah.
Ken Whisenhunt skulking back to San Diego. That's impressive.
Yeah, wouldn't want to be. Yeah.
So, can anyone explain to me how Jeff Fisher still has a job? Because as a person who covers a team in the NFC West, I have no idea how he's still employed.
Somehow they managed to beat Seattle like once a year, and then like after that game, he must get the owner drunk and say, "Dude, extension." He beat him twice last year.
Well, he beat him twice last year.
I was like, "What is this? This is strange."
One of the interesting things to me is that he's not on the competition committee anymore. He gave that up. So, I think Fisher's days of being a media and coach, owner's darling are numbered. We'll see. They got to start winning.
I guess some people have just forgotten that he's in the league. I mean, this reminds me of the Ricky Williams trade. Washington got like 8 draft picks, and they did nothing with them, and the Rams got all those picks for RG3, and they have a pretty good, their defensive line is good, and then the rest of their team, their offensive line is horrible, their receivers are terrible, they got Gurley. It seemed to work out.
I can imagine.
Keenum got a first-round tender. No one talks about that, but man.
I can imagine Hard Knocks is going to be a lot of defensive players walking around. Who's our starting quarterback? Case? What? I never heard of him. Who?
I'm pretty sure Nick Foles is going to be the highest-paid backup in the NFL. I mean, he's getting something like $7 or $8 million a year. Nice.
Yeah.
It's tough.
He hasn't been cut yet. Even though Case Keenum is the starting quarterback going into the draft and into training camp.
But as we see from Colin Kaepernick and RG3, what a fine line between having a quarterback and not having a quarterback.
Yeah.
You're a fan of a team that has a quarterback.
Here's how bad.
And the Titans seem to have a quarterback.
Here's how bad the Browns quarterback position has been. Their fans are like, we might get RG3. It's like, oh God.
Yeah, in my super deep dynasty, they actually added Josh McCown back. And the sad thing is, I drafted Johnny Manziel in my rookie draft. That's me, the guy who took him in the second round. And somebody offered me the 4th pick from the end of the draft in this year's rookie draft for him. And I jumped on it, and I feel like I got something for Johnny Football. Yay! I got a guy who probably won't make an NFL roster. I'm going to take the 70th pick in a rookie draft. Yay, me! Yeah, that's how it went. Yeah. But I'm interested to see, because they do seem like they're trying to talk up the quarterbacks this year, but I don't think, just compared to the rest of the talent in the draft, I don't know. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of excitement about the draft coming up with Sharona covering it. It's like the players at the top. But maybe we should talk about that, since you were a GM for the Titans.
Yes, I was.
And how did that go?
Well, it was fun. It was me, Jamal Black, and Nathaniel Rutherford, and we Josh Gunnels was going to join us too, but he had to work. And we formed the Team Titans and had a mock draft with the guys from ITP inside the pylon. And we ended up, Sharona was the only one who wanted to draft Jalen Ramsey. I got outvoted, and we drafted Jeremy Tunzel.
And how excited were you about that? I was thinking,
So since we're talking about the first overall pick and the draft's coming out, why would the Titans draft another offensive tackle when they've got Taylor Lewin right there?
Yeah, I mean
What's the point?
they have invested heavily in their offensive line, and there are other offensive tackles in this draft, and they could, draft somebody. The left tackle, their best offensive tackle, two of their best tackles that they've had in the past decade, maybe 2 decades since the Bruce that they've drafted, the Bruce Matthews era, were Michael Ruse, 2nd-round pick, David Stewart, 4th-round pick. So you don't have to draft a tackle high to get a quality, offensive tackle. The problem is that this is not a big name draft. It's not a draft with guys that are clustered at the top. There's a lot of guys in the middle, so to speak. I said, why not swing for the fences and take a guy that could be a playmaker? But the ghost of Michael Griffin scared everyone off.
well,
Zach gets that.
Does Jalen Ramsey look like he's going to be a safety? I thought he would be a cornerback.
Well,
Look how much money the top cornerbacks get paid. It's like you can't. If I were a Titans front office and, what was it, someone made a joke about a cardboard stand-up as being the Titans front office right now. Like, I wouldn't care about if you can't get anything for the first pick. You just take a guy you know is going to be a starter for you right away, a difference maker, and they got the guy, hopefully, on offense. So why not get that guy on defense unless there's some stud offensive prospect, and it doesn't really look like it. I mean, the tackle, the thing with Taylor Lewan is he's been injured both years, so it's really hard to tell if he's good. And I know somebody posted that if the Titans did take Tunzel, then they've taken 3 top 10 draft pick offensive linemen in the past 5 years.
Yeah.
And the first 2 guys haven't done that much.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah, they took a center in the 4th round the same year that they took Chance Warmack. And they took Hutasi, was it, in the 5th round? They've invested heavily.
3rd rounder, and he was supposed to be the right tackle, and now he's going to be a guard. And they're looking at Luis Vasquez. I was like, please bring him in. We need a starter. Basically the Titans need upgrades everywhere.
And Zach knows this. I'm a broken record on this. My issue with the offensive line is less talent and more how they've been coached and how they've schemed. Period.
Will it be better this year with Mike Munchak and their old retreads?
Mike Munchak is in Pittsburgh.
Not Munchak. See, I'm already getting the names wrong. Malarkey. I'm so excited.
And by the way, can we, for 1 minute, give a holla to Mike Munchak, who escaped the evil wrath of Roger?
I know. He freaking grabbed the dude by his dreads as they out of bounds, and like, hey, I'm Mike Munchak, asshole.
I'm a Hall of Famer.
I'm original guard, not original gangsta.
Now listen, that Reggie Nelson caused all that was. I completely and utterly support Mike Munchak. I think that he did some things coaching-wise that I didn't necessarily agree with, but he was a better coach than he got credit for. But that was Reggie Nelson instigated every single bit of that.
Sure, just has a soft spot for Munchak, and who wouldn't? It's just he's a pretty guy.
Original Oiler, he was an Oiler and then came with the Titans and Hall of Famer and
Oh, those were the days. Well, let's talk about, since we have our Seattle guy on here, we want to get the inside scoop on what's happening there. So, does Seattle need an offensive line? Is that even a requirement anymore in the NFL? You lost Sweezy, man. How could you live without Sweezy?
Okay, well, the loss of Sweezy is debated as to whether anyone actually cares. So Tampa paid a lot of money for him because they had to outbid 5 other teams, and Seattle fans who have actually watched him play were like, "Why? Why?" Because it doesn't make any sense. He's a guy that when you watch the tape, he will look really good on one play and just completely dominate a defensive tackle. And then on the next play, will be left standing there looking behind him like, oh, I should have blocked that dude. It just isn't. It's just he's not a guy that's going to help you on every play. He's just not that guy. So it's really weird to see him make that much money and to get that big of a contract because who is he? Is he the guy that dominates in the run game, or is he the guy that completely misses blocks and then is left standing there looking around going, am I supposed to block someone? Because I don't know. And then I guess Tampa's thinking they can fix the mental problems and get him to be what he is, what he flashes on his best plays, but I don't know, man. That's a lot of money for a guy that's up and down the way he is.
Now I've seen conflicting reports. It's not guaranteed, right? None of the money's guaranteed.
There's a lot of money.
Russell Okung who got that self-negotiated deal, which is like the old school days. It's something like 5 years, $50 million, but really it's a 1-year contract that's worth no guaranteed money. But Sweezy, I'm pretty sure got like $14.5 million guaranteed. Some good amount.
I don't know the number, but Sweezy got a lot of money guaranteed, and he's a guard, and he's making a lot of money. It's like $6.5 million per year, which is a lot for a guard, especially one that's not that good. He's really not that good at pass blocking. But Okung, who was an All-Pro not that long ago in 2012, he.
Look at that kitty.
Of course, he not like the camera, but it looks. He
represented himself. Ooh,
yeah.
In order to save 3% on agent fees, he probably cost himself 33% on his salary. He's making $5 million with 0 at signing, 0 guaranteed, 0 anything. The Broncos can cut him tomorrow and never have paid him anything and have no dead money. And although it looks great on paper because you see 5 years, $52 million or whatever it is, it's a 1-year, $5 million contract. The other 4 years are a team option that they'll never exercise. So, just a horrible, horrible contract. I'd say he should fire his agent.
Apparently I was getting my offensive lineman confused.
Yeah. But who do they have? Like, I noticed that Seattle did draft a couple of guards last year, so who do they have? What do you do with the first round? What's the first round pick in Seattle? Do you even know what that is? Because you guys don't do that very often.
Okay, let's start with last year. Mark Glowinski. Everyone just calls him Glow. He was the second of the 2 offensive linemen picked, but the only one of those 2 that made the roster. He started Week 17 against Arizona, and you could tell that he is going to be a pretty good guy. He's going to be in his first year starting, so he might not play as well, rookie mistake type of thing, but he did things that Sweezy couldn't do in terms of pass blocking, and he was much more consistent down to down. Wasn't as spectacular on his great plays, but wasn't nearly as bad on his bad plays. The Seahawks are going to plug him in at right tackle, and they're not going to miss a beat. The problem is they don't have a plan at tackle, at offensive tackle. They're clueless, and if they're gonna fix it, they've got to get it in the draft. But as you said, the Seahawks don't even know what first-round picks are because they've only had a couple of them the entire time that Schneider and Pete Carroll have been in town, and they're more likely to trade down and trade out of that spot than they are to actually use it.
Yeah.
Yes, for as well as Seattle's drafted overall, it's like they're first rounders. I don't even know. What do you think like of Bruce Irvin? Because he seemed like a reach. We didn't quite fit, and then he got a big contract with the Raiders, and it was like didn't seem like anyone was that upset that he left.
Bruce Irvin was drafted to be a pass rusher, and what they learned once they got him into town was that he wasn't a pass rusher. I mean, he could be, but he's a one-trick pony on the pass rush. He's a guy with a ton of speed, but no other moves. So if he doesn't beat the offensive tackle around the corner, he's not going to get to the quarterback. So they moved him to linebacker. And at Sam, his job against the run was to set the edge and not let the running back outside. So he didn't get a lot of stats because there's not a lot of stats involved in the Sam linebacker in Seattle scheme. And then in the nickel, he moved up and rushed the passer. But even then, he was effective at times, but not at others. He really needed the Seahawks to have a good inside pass rush to stop the quarterback from stepping up, and the Seahawks didn't really have that last year. So he didn't put up a lot of stats. I think that the Raiders overpaid for him a little bit, but at the same time, I actually like the signing for Oakland. He is going to complement Khalil Mack really, really well. His ability to play the run and to do his job is going to make the rest of that run defense better. He can cover much better than people give him credit for because that guy can run. And then you throw in the fact that in the nickel he can move up and rush the passer. I think he's going to be pretty good. I actually like that signing. The Seahawks let him walk because they knew they couldn't afford him. If they could afford him, if there was no salary cap, Bruce Irvin would still be a Seattle Seahawk. They actually really like him. They know that just because it doesn't show up on the stat sheet doesn't mean that what he does isn't important to the team.
And yeah, you look at that 2012 draft class. Like if you look at the Titans draft class, you have to start crying. You do the team shower cry. In 2012, they drafted Irvin in the first round, Bobby Wagner in the second round, Russell Wilson in the third round, Robert Turbin, who was like their backup running back for like 4 years. They had Jeremy Lane, who they just signed an extension, got him relatively cheap to be their second cornerback. J.R. Sweezy was like a defensive tackle who became a guard. That's pretty good for a seventh-round pick to make that turnaround. And, it was just like James Carpenter, Russell Okung, Aaron Curry. Oh, my gosh. Swing and miss right there. Lawrence Jackson. Just not a lot of wins there in the first, but otherwise, no wonder they traded for Jimmy Graham, right?
If you're looking at Seattle first-round picks, go back and look at the late 80s and early 90s because it is an absolute wasteland. It makes the landscape from games like Fallout 4. I'm going to throw out the video game reference there for Sharona. But yeah, so it makes that landscape look really nice because you're talking about some of the worst first-round picks in NFL history, and they all came from Seattle year after year after year. They were bad, and the current front office isn't doing that much better. I mean, Earl Thomas is an absolute stud, but besides that, there's not a lot of good in the first-round picks. Last year, Seattle led the entire NFL in undrafted free agents on the roster.
Yeah, I think that's an advantage.
They were one half of football away, one really bad half of football away from yet another Super Bowl. And I think that says a lot about scouts, and I think it also says a lot about the fact that
at skill positions, like Doug Baldwin was undrafted.
Yep.
He was Jermaine Kearse undrafted.
Jermaine Kearse was undrafted. Actually, 4 of the 5 wide receivers in Seattle that were on the roster in the playoffs were undrafted. The only one that wasn't was Tyler Lockett. Who who was a Pro Bowler as a punt and kick returner because he's freaking amazing. But all the other wide receivers on the roster were all undrafted free agents.
And who did they draft? One Chris Durham, who oddly played with the Titans for a year a couple years ago.
That guy never goes away.
He's just like really tall. I don't know what else he had. I guess you thought he might be a special teams guy. But yeah, let me ask about. So we'll go with the top picks you had last year. So what do you think about Frank Clark and about the team's kind of drafting philosophy? Because he had some off-the-field issues, as Sharona would know. So why does a team, why do they feel like they can take these off-field guys who have issues? And does that kind of stuff bother you as a fan?
The Frank Clark one bothered me a lot as a fan because of the fact that the evidence seemed really clear. This was a guy that was not a good guy. And I think the team could have easily passed on him. The reason why they took him was because if he didn't have the off-field stuff, he would have been a top 15 pick. Like, just straight up. His tape was that good. And they're sitting at the end of the second round. Not even early in the second round, not the first round, the end of the second round. And they got a guy with the physical talent of a top 15 pick. So they said they did their investigation and all of that, and I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say that they did a lot.
Whole thing. Yeah, that's what bothered me about the whole thing was they didn't own it. They tried to pull a Titans and deny it and act like it was not a real thing. And that's what got them in trouble with me. If they had just said what you said and been like, he's on a short leash and we won't tolerate and blah, 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 blah. But they didn't do any of that. They weaseled out of it.
Yeah, and that part really bothered me. And they said that they talked to everyone. They talked to the counselor between, that worked with him and his alleged victim. And all of that, and it felt like from the counselor's point of view that they thought this would work and all that kind of stuff. Honestly, I don't know what happened. You don't know what happened, and saying that means that we can go ahead and draft this guy with a clear conscience, I think is weak. But at the same time, it's a guy with a top 15 talent at the end of the second round, and I think they said, you know what, there's enough going on here. We met with him. We talked with him. We think he's not going to get us in trouble, so we're going to just go with it. But, man, that was hard, really hard to accept as a fan going forward. But at the same time, he's going to be good. And not only that, but he's lost 15 pounds since he entered the NFL. He's down to like 258, I think is what he posted, and he's going to be an edge rusher, and he's probably going to be like Cliff Averill amazing. And as long as he keeps himself clean from here going forward, it's really hard to go back and say that we're still going to hold this against you, even though we don't know what really happened. But at the same time, that makes me feel like kind of an ass. So basically, I can understand why there are fans that will never support him. And you know what? Go for it, because the evidence of especially what's in the police report, it's just gross. It really is gross.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, let's go with something a little less gross. So Seattle did not confuse anybody when they traded a first-round pick and a center for Jimmy Graham. But they did shock and awe the draft community when they traded 4 picks to move up to get Tyler Lockett. And what just blows my mind is they traded 4 picks to get Tyler Lockett, and they still had like 6 picks in the 4th through 7th round because they're Seattle and they have all the picks. We have all the picks. We have all the bases. So did that take you back making that trade, and do you think he's going to make that transition to being a starting wide receiver this year?
He already made the transition. He took over the starting job about week 6 last year, and if you look at the statistically what the offense did before he took over as the starter, and after, you can already see he made a major impact. Statistically, himself, he did good, but there's a high correlation between the amount of snaps that Tyler Lockett got and Doug
Russell
Baldwin's
Wilson's
production.
Well, yeah. And Russell Wilson's numbers.
Yeah, Russell. I mean, and a lot of that is Doug Baldwin's production, because all of a sudden
they had to account for somebody else.
The number one cornerback was on Tyler Lockett. The safeties were watching Tyler Lockett, and Doug Baldwin suddenly had a lot of room to work with, and he took advantage of it because he's got some amazing quicks and is really good himself. So I have zero reservations going forward about Tyler Lockett. If he isn't amazing next year, I will actually be shocked, because there's nothing that he did that gives me any pause about projecting him as a top player going forward. The most important thing that I see, because he's not that big, right? He's only like 5'11", 190 something, I think. He completes the catch through contact as well as any guy you're going to see. He is really, really good at securing the ball, even if he's getting tackled while the ball's coming in, and that's something which is pretty rare. And for a guy that's not big, he's not Calvin Johnson, it's really, really rare. So I have so much respect for him and so high of expectations for Tyler Lockett. So, yeah, it was weird at the time trading 4 picks for a guy that we thought was only going to return kicks and punts and maybe help in the slot here and there was weird, but they got way more out of that than we ever figured, and he looks like he's going to be an absolute stud.
Well, I hope so, because I have him in my Dynasty League. And the best part was I had the pick right above Josh Norris, who's like with Roto World, and when I took him, he like traded his pick away right away. It's like, I wanted Tyler Lockett. I'm like, good. When the guy who covers the draft, professionally likes the guy, you're like, he might be good.
I drafted him all over the place last year.
Got a lot of attention, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But who do you think are some of the players that Seattle will take, and will they break this draft curse in the first round this year?
Asking anyone other than John Snyder what John Snyder's going to do is asking someone to make a fool out of themselves. So who are they going to take? I have absolutely no idea, but I can make up some stuff and be wrong. Honestly, what they need is an offensive tackle, or a center, or a guard, or the other guard, or the other offensive tackle. Because let's face it, they don't have an offensive line. If Taylor Decker is there, I could see them taking him. That's the kind of angle that everyone expects and everyone wants. Honestly, if they take an offensive lineman despite their absolute need, I'll be kind of surprised. What's his name? Robert Nimdichke, or a nose tackle. Much more likely than an offensive tackle, because they're the Seahawks and because they do not do what you want them to do or what you expect them to do. And they do need someone to replace Brandon Mebane. So, yep.
Yeah, it's like with Seattle. You're like, oh, they got the guy who was wearing the mascot costume for the team last year, but he had a really good 3-cone drill, so we're going to give him a shot. And because of their recent draft and undrafted free agent prowess, I mean, you go, okay, I'm with you. Okay, sure.
Well, it's hard to argue with success.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pimp out someone else's website. If you haven't seen 3 Sigma Athlete, the number 3, and then Sigma written out, athlete.com, it's by Zach Whitman. He's a guy that writes a lot about the Seahawks and covers the team. And he's the guy who kind of did all the research and reverse engineered Spark, which is what Nike uses to create athleticism and that kind of stuff. And Pete Carroll was part of that Nike group that developed it and that kind of stuff. And he being Zach, kind of reverse engineered this, and realized that the Seahawks were picking very particular players and going after a certain kind of athleticism and all that kind of stuff. So it's a great site if you're interested in that kind of stuff, and I recommend it, especially because he is really good at identifying players Seattle likes, and the three-cone drill and all that kind of stuff. The Seahawks love really athletic players, regardless of their position, and so it makes it one of those things where when you start looking at that stuff and you start looking at player types and you start to go, oh, so there's this guy that most of the draft community thinks is like, okay, like Bruce Irvin, but he's going to be a guy that Seattle's going to target. And so you start to get that feel. Tyler Lockett came up as that guy. Frank Clark came up as that guy, although everyone says, no, they won't draft a guy with his background. And then they did. If you're looking for, because of course it's Seattle, so every year they draft a defensive lineman and turn him into an offensive lineman. Because why? I don't know. But because they're the Seahawks and they love to do it. And Zach's already predicted it's going to be Connor Wozniak out of Boston College, because if you look at his testing stuff from the combine, he's like through the roof, like super athlete. And then you look at his tape and you're like, he's a really average, boring defensive tackle who probably won't be drafted. So like, okay, that's a 7th round pick for Seattle, just guaranteed. But yeah, I mean that's what Seattle does. They find athletes and then coach them. So.
Hello, Kristen Michael in the 2nd round. But so what about Thomas Rawls next year? Like,
yeah,
you lose beast mode, but Thomas Rawls was just insanely good on a team that had half an offensive line, now has none, but he did break his ankle. Is he the guy? And they got to bring in someone besides Kristen Michael, which I already have. That was awesome that they got him back after Dallas traded a conditional pick for him.
Yeah, I started saying they got a draft pick too, didn't they?
I don't think they actually got the draft pick, but maybe they did.
No, they did.
Yeah,
they did.
Like a 6th rounder or
actually,
something.
How amazing is that? You trade away a guy, and then he gets cut, and he goes to a third team, and he gets cut again just when you need him because your starter and your backup are both hurt, and he gets to come back. And not only does he come back, but he comes back humbled because, let's face it, he was a big prima donna and a pain in the neck when he was here, and that's why he got cut. And he came back actually humbled and willing to work for the first time in 3 years, and the Seahawks really liked him once he came back. And he did really well. If you look at those 3 games he started, he played really, really well. Christine Michael did. Now, your question is about Thomas Rawls. Thomas Rawls led the entire NFL in yards per carry, and he did it behind the same offensive line that
crazy numbers last year.
Yeah. Beast Mode only rushed for like 3.6 yards per carry, and Thomas Rawls rushed for 5.2. I mean, it is behind the same offensive line. He was that good. I mean, he's an undrafted free agent. Remember that again? Out of Central Michigan. You go, what? But he actually played for Michigan, and then it was recruited by them, played for Michigan, and then had to transfer. But Thomas Rawls is a stud in a lot of different ways. And when Beast Mode got hurt and Rawls came in as the starter, the Seahawks opened up their offense. They didn't, restrict it because, you got this rookie in a key position. No, they opened it up. Instead of all this inside zone, in the shotgun, inside handoff kind of stuff, they went back to the zone stretch game, which is the kind of the basis. It's the fundamental play of the zone blocking scheme. But Lynch doesn't run it well, so they went back to that and they really opened up their offense. They had inside zone, outside zone, and all of a sudden the running game just took off with them. And it's kind of mind blowing because it's not like that line was good. It's the same group of guys that were awful before, but now they had the defenses had to defend the width of the field, and they were struggling to do it. And Rawls was just that good, and it really was kind of surprising for us because Rawls wasn't that good in the preseason. He really wasn't. And I watched him in training camp, and there were times he looked completely lost. And I think it was because they were running the Marshawn Lynch offense, which doesn't suit Rawls. And then when they opened everything up and they're like, okay, we're going to call plays that fit Rawls' skill set, all of a sudden the guy looked like a wizard. I mean, he was great. He was really, really good. The one question is durability. He broke his ankle last year. If you go back and look at his years in college, he was consistently hurt and didn't play much. So he's going to be there. He's going to be really good. I suspect he's going to be great. But is he going to get enough? If you're looking at this from a fantasy football perspective, is he going to get enough touches to warrant a really high pick? Maybe. On the weeks when he's healthy, I think he will. But it's really hard to bank on him and say he's going to be the guy. And that's why Christy and Michael the Seahawks re-signed him for like the minimum. And he's an important pickup, not because he is as good as we all thought he was going to be in a second-round pick, but because he can fill in. And if Rawls gets hurt, the Seahawks offense won't die without him. So that's why as kind of a 1-2 punch, the Seahawks actually are pretty set going forward, and both guys are really, really cheap as far as the salary cap goes, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, they pulled a Patriot, so like a LeGarrette Blount. Didn't the Steelers sign LeGarrette Blount? He gets cut by the Steelers. The Patriots pick him up. He's a major player for them, and they get like a 5th or 6th round, compensatory pick.
Mm-hmm.
Compensatory pick, something the Titans won't have for the next couple of years, because their 2012 draft was, shall we say, the opposite. The David Hasselhoff with a beard of the Seattle 2012 draft. That's right. We're going back with our references. Now we're going to give something for Sharona here before the show is over. We have not done the over it or not section, and it's time, Sharona. Are you ready?
Nah. Yes.
So over it or nah, boys talking about girls on Twitter.
Over it.
Jared Jones saying there is no link between CTA and the NFL concussions.
Nah, because I want to clown Jerry Jones until the day I die.
Yeah, well, he might live, forever. Over it or not, the Saints extending Sean Payton's contract. He's getting Jeff Fisher money.
He is getting some good jack there. I find that, I mean, I'm not going to hate on somebody for getting paid, Go get that money, honey. I thought that it was very odd for the Saints to do that in light of everything that's happened. But no, I mean, hey. Sean, call me.
How about mock drafts with more than a month to go until the draft?
Over it.
Oh, come on.
Nah, okay, nah.
You can't be over that.
I'm not. I'm kidding.
Yeah, you have to study.
As someone who runs a team site, man, mock drafts are like money. They really are. People eat them up.
Yeah, they do.
They do. They love them. And everyone who does a mock draft will openly admit, this is not going to be right. If I look at the 32 players that I mock or 31 this year that I mocked in the first round, if half of them go in the first round, forget what team they go to. If half of them go, that's a really good mock draft. Everyone who doesn't do that, but the fans just eat them up. They love them, and we're going to keep doing them.
Sure.
We put a lot of work into them, both in writing them, but also scouting and all that kind of stuff. And even if they're wrong, there's still insight there. There's still something to be learned there for everyone. So
I used to do them too. I used to write them, so I know.
I'm gonna support the community of people that do mock drafts because they are a ton of work. And to do them right, and I know a lot of people that do them right, and you know what? Fans love them. So if we're working hard to do them, and people like what we're doing, why stop?
You get those clicks, man, and it's other than the Titans pick, it's fun to do, I'm sure. But what about hoarding Easter candy the day after? Getting that half-price candy action?
No, nah.
No?
Oh.
Really? Going in for the cheap candy? Man, I go to the store
No,
like 8
I'm
in
not
the morning.
over it. You said over it or not. I'm not over it. I stock up on Easter candy.
Now, there was, because people love to do
eggs.
people love to do like brackets because of the NCAA tournament's going on, and they did a Easter candy bracket, and they picked Cadbury cream eggs over Cadbury mini eggs, which is a freaking travesty. Cadbury cream eggs are disgusting. Cadbury mini eggs, I have to admit, the chocolate quality's gone down, but it's still good stuff, and I'll probably still buy 7 or 8 pounds next Monday. Because sometimes, well, I don't know, sometimes the stores sell out real quick, and sometimes you're just like, take it. Here you go. Get a pallet. Go for it. I'm putting weight on like an NFL player, right?
I used to adore Cadbury cream eggs. I'm not as big a fan as I used to be. I still like them, and I will still eat one. What is it? I get the it's not Stouffer's, but starts with an anyway. There's some really good Easter candy out there. This one has coconut and all kinds of good stuff. And I like the Reese eggs. Those are good.
It used to be like the Reese's eggs were the only thing that everybody realized you could monetize this, and now everybody does it. And Reese's does like Arbor Day Reese's, and like, I mean, you know, any holiday you can think of. 9/11 Reese's, maybe not too soon, but you know, they'll give it a shot. Basically, it's the same thing as the Reese's. The Reese's trees for Christmas. Yeah, it's I don't know why, but it had more peanut butter, and you know, as a peanut butter guy, pretty much my Easter candy power rankings would be mini eggs followed by anything with peanut butter in it.
I like the peanut butter, and I like the caramel. I like the caramel. I like the Cadbury. I like the Cadbury caramels. Those are good.
Something to think. Give me something to think about.
Yeah.
Because originally, before I went Belgian tonight, because once you go Belgian, you don't go back, I had a coconut stout lined up Boulevard, and I'll be trying that one of these weeks in the future. But I did load up on Bombers this week. I think I had a thing about budget beers a couple weeks ago, and now I'm like, I just went to the store and bought all the expensive but delicious beers.
I didn't get you my auxiliary beer.
Carl Safchik will not be happy with me because he was doing that whole alcohol percentage. And I bought a 4-pack of, it's called Sour Bikini from Evil Twin. Basically a sour pale ale, but it's 3%. But it's still like a 4-pack is like $11. But it's really good beer.
Oh, but that's ridiculous. I would not spend money on such a ridiculous beer.
You like sour beers are, man, those are an acquired taste. I've had a few, and the first couple drinks are really tough to not throw up. But after that, you know, once they deaden the taste buds, they're not bad. So
it's like watching J.R. Sweezy tape, huh?
Well, I highly recommend the hot cha-cha-cha. If you like ciders and you like, it's not as hot as what you think. But I eat a lot. I mean, I eat hot stuff, but it's good. It was quite tasty. I would drink it again.
So I've got a beer for you guys to to consider, and this one is out of Columbia, Missouri. There's a little brew pub.
M-I-Z.
There's a little brew pub there called Flat Branch, and apparently it's huge if you're in the area. Like everybody knows about Flat Branch, but if you're not in Columbia, then no one's ever heard of it. And they have a green chili beer.
Ooh.
Where they actually put green chilies into the wort, and if it sounds weird, it's because it is, and it smells like if you open a can of green chilies from your local market. But it's surprisingly good. It really is.
It sounds good. I would drink that.
It's like a pale ale with that green chili taste, and it is completely unique. I've never had anything else like it, but it was surprisingly good. I expected it to be absolutely gross, It wasn't. I was shocked. And then this last weekend, I had a different chili beer. So last week, I don't know. I can say it on here, but there was a brew fest here in town, and so it was like 72 beers and an excuse to try a lot of them, a lot of IPAs because we're in the Pacific Northwest, and apparently everyone here likes hops. But one of them was a chili beer, but unlike the one from Flat Branch, this one actually had that spicy heat. So it tasted kind of the same on your tongue, and then it had that like cayenne pepper kind of burn afterward.
I would love that, I bet.
Which coming from a beer was weird, but I really enjoyed it. And I'm not one who usually like that particular one. I have no idea. I can find my phone here. I can look it up because it was one of those that was so weird that I actually took a picture of it in order to make sure that I didn't forget what it was.
I would try that. It sounds good. Sorry, guys.
It's Kalupia chili beer, and it was one of those things where you don't expect it to be good, but you try it just because, you're at a brew fest and there's a lot of things to try, and you're like, what the heck? And then it was like, you know what? This isn't bad. And then after a couple more drinks, you're like, I might actually buy this. And for something that I expected to be terrible, that's really surprising. So if you're looking for weird beers, those are two that I would definitely recommend.
Now, is that isolated to that area? Could I find that chili beer nationally?
The Flat Branch, you probably have to go to like around here, I've got a beer importer, which I say importer because they bring them in from all over the country, so I can get stuff from Delaware and New York and whatever, even though I'm up here in the Pacific Northwest. And so you're probably going to have to find a place like that in order to get either one of these, because they both are relatively small microbrews that don't have a wide distribution. So.
Although
but they're good.
A friend who's a professor in Missouri, so maybe I can get the hookup there.
If you know someone at Mizzou, definitely ask them. They'll tell you Flat Branch is everybody in the area knows it. It's good stuff.
I have to try that.
No, Keith, you're good stuff. Well, as we're actually past the hour point, man, look at us go. And I'm out of beer, so tell us where everybody can find you online, what you got going on, because there is no off season and the draft's coming up, and teams besides Seattle will make first round picks that are good. So let us know what's happening.
So obviously you can find me at 12th Man Rising, and currently most of our content has to do with the Seahawks' lack of a plan at the offensive line, because let's face it, that's what everyone wants to talk about. We'll also be gearing up our draft coverage a little bit stronger here as we get close, and the draft is coming up. Okay, sure, we're still over a month away, but still. It's the NFL, and there's no offseason to the NFL because there's always something else to talk about. If you want to talk to me directly, the best way to do that is to find me on Twitter. I'm at Myers Myers NFL. It's MYERS NFL, and that's the best place to find me if you want to talk to me. Tell me I'm an idiot. That's okay. I appreciate it. It's cool. I know I am. It's all good.
Well, I won't say that.
Not.
Sharona, what you got going on? Tell us about your show.
Podcasting on Friday. A short, quick podcast. Probably going to be. I might have one guest, but mostly me. I'm going to be discussing the Gawker verdict. Hulk Hogan getting a big verdict against Gawker. There's going to be some beauty product talks. Woo! I'll talk about the process for selecting the Titans' #1 overall pick, and who knows what else I'll be talking about. But those are the big things. I want to talk about the Gawker verdict, so tune in for that.
Sounds excellent. Well, I, as usual, don't have anything much new to offer, so just find me on Twitter, Zach_Law. Usually like to retweet all the good stuff that's going on online that I find. It's not always just RotoViz, but it's good. So thanks everybody. Thanks to Keith again for being on, and thank you Sharona for being on and making it through your entire drink. And I gotta get me. I don't know. I might have to do beer exchange. I've heard lots of good things about Irish Death. So, and you're in the Deschutes footprint, so I might have to hit some of that. 'Cause that Big Butte Porter is one of my favorites.
Black Butte's amazing. If you can find Black Butte Double X, if you can find Black Butte Double X, it's their one that they do every year. And it's one of those things where it's good because they actually dip the top in wax because they're worried about any flavor whatsoever looking at. It's like Black Butte on steroids. It's really good if you can find it. It's about 3 times the cost of an normal Black Butte, but it's really good. You'll trust me.
Yeah,
you'll
when
like
I
it.
was in the Northwest a few summers ago, I got like the Black Butte 25th anniversary. And I just drank it like in my hotel room one night, and I was freaking like, oh, I should have taken some home. But I don't even think you could mail beer to Georgia back then. Now you can, so we'll see. I actually owe Jody some beers, Mr. Jody Smith from Houston. But anyway, thanks everybody for doing the show, and as we like to sign off, kiss my grits, and look at that. Oh,
Yep.
no.
Friday gaming talk too.
Lots of games.
I had to get that little small plug in. Hot gaming talk.